Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Ray. Ray is from Miami in Florida in the USA. So let's see what Ray has to say. Enjoy the interview. So
Yes.
hello Ray, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for taking the time today for the interview. Thank you.
No problem. I'm really excited.
So tell me, how's your day going so far?
Good. Um, I had to, well, normally I usually wake up around this time or a little bit afterwards. So this morning I'm like, oh, I have a full day. I have a full morning ahead of me. So I got up early, got some coffee and on Zoom, and then I have to go get a haircut because not this is not normally me. So I'm like, this has to go. I am not used to having a Brillo pad on top of my head, so this has got to go now. So my dad cuts my hair, so he was like,
Sure.
I have some errands to run, and then I'll be to you to cut your hair because I bowl in a league on Saturdays, a
Mm-hmm.
competitive bowling league. So but that doesn't start till later on in the day. So full
Amazing.
day, but we'll get through it.
Wow. And do you consider yourself to be more of a day or night person?
Um, as a writer, I'd like to say more of a night person, but that normally, depending on what kind of night it is, I'll go to sleep fairly, like if I get all my stuff done and then I'm like, okay, there's no sports on, no TV shows on, and I'm like, okay, off to sleep because I'm a writer at night and then I work for a contractor during the day. So it's pretty busy schedule.
I see. And tell me where you're from, Ray.
I'm from Miami, Florida. So born
Born
and
and
raised
raised?
born and raised here. Still here. Um it's just one of those cities that when you're from here, you it's hard to leave. Um I did travel to England back when I was 7 or 8.
Oh, wow.
I won a trip there. I did some public speaking in one of the organizations that I was a part of. They organized the trip for a lot of the young people in the community doing great
Right.
things. So I was one of the first official winners of that trip, and it was an amazing
Amazing.
experience. But being 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, with a bunch of like high schoolers at that time. I mean, this was like the 1996, 1997. So they were much more mature than me, but it was a heck of an experience. I mean, England is beautiful, cold, and more rain than what I'm used to, here in South Florida, but beautiful experience all around. I would love to go back someday.
Amazing. Okay, so let's start the interview talking about your career as a writer. You already mentioned about it. So tell me
Mhm.
how everything started.
So, what's funny is because I did public speaking from age 6 to maybe 13 or 14 years old, um, I wanted nothing to do with a career in writing, television, producing, nothing, of the sort. I think there was a combination of burnout there where I was just like, okay, been there, done that, don't want anything else to do with this. What else is next out there? And I wanted to be a doctor for like a hot 5 minutes, but then I realized I said, okay, well, too much studying, too many years of studying, too many, hours on your feet, and um there's a lot of blood and bones and stuff involved. So I'm like, you know what? That I have respect for what doctors and nurses do, but that's not that's not my area of genius. So I ironically enrolled as a communications major and started taking speech classes and all these classes with media. And a speech professor when I was during my sophomore year in college, God rest his soul, um, he encouraged me to take a video production class because he said to me, he looked at me one day after class and he said, I get the funny feeling you have this great personality, but you're not really enjoying this. And I said, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. The whole decision for college it wasn't an easy decision for me to decide to go. Um, and so he said, well, take a video production class. You might learn editing. You'll learn different parts of production. And maybe since you've been in front of the camera, you might like some stuff behind the camera. And it just so happened that a couple semesters later, I'm in this video production class with a couple of old classmates from high school. And
Oh,
they wrote this horror web series on campus. Um, and watching their work ethic and watching how they brought this together, I was like, ooh, okay. Maybe I think I'd like to do this. And so graduated with a communications degree and took a year off between graduating with my bachelor's and then starting my master's program. And there was this show on TV around that time called Revenge. It ran on ABC for like 4 years, and me and my best friend would watch that every Sunday night. Like we would call each other on Skype and on FaceTime, and we would just be like, did you see that? That's awesome. Like we would just be all into it, like the set design, the writing, the characters, the storyline, the plot. And it dawned on me, it's like, I want to write something like this. So I just started writing and wrote different ideas, different plots, and none of them kind of clicked with me. And then finally, 2020 of all years, I said to myself, I said, I have this, I want to do this. And if I don't put it out there and if I don't get it out there, it's not going to go anywhere. So I wrote the script. I got a couple of friends of mine together and I said, hey, I'm writing a script. Would you guys like to do this with me? It was I think one of the craziest things I've ever kind of embarked on, just to say, hey, I'm producing a TV series, a web series, do this with me. And the next thing I know, I've got friends coming in from different cities and we're like, okay. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this. And so that's how my show, The Associates, and that's how my career in writing was born.
oh my God. I love the whole journey,
It
learning.
was a
And
long journey.
I think it's amazing to be able to go through all of that and, and find your path. And, you
Yeah.
know, and so you write series and TV shows, or you write books as well?
I wrote a book in 2023 about my life and my journey into entrepreneurship so far. It's called Young, Gifted, and Directionless. It's on Amazon. And it's a story of overcoming adversity to reconnect with my purpose, to pursue my passion. So, um, I was born with a stroke at birth. I was 2 pounds, so I was literally this tiny little thing in an incubator. I wasn't expected to make it past the first 24 hours. As a matter of fact, the doctors had told my parents to prepare for my funeral. And God in the universe was just like, this is a special child. um, and I spent 6 months in the hospital. I came home and as a 2 or 3 year old, my parents noticed that there was something wrong. Like I would walk with a limp. I would walk and I would cover this hand, which was affected by the stroke, so it's the right side. And they noticed that something was off. And so years of physical therapy and meeting with specialists, I was able to get some corrective surgery to give me more mobility. And so I talk about all of that in the book. Um,
Amazing.
it's on Amazon, and that was a journey in and of itself, a 3 year journey to at first, because there was a part of me that wanted to get back into public speaking after writing the first season of the show, and I just didn't know how to get there. And I would research you know, how to get back into public speaking on Google, and every website that I read was like, well, authors and people who write books, they, that increases their chances. And so I'm like, oh, that would mean that sounds like a long time. And I watched a couple good friends of mine do it. Um, they had written books previously, and without kind of any guidance, I just started like I started when I started writing the associates, I just started writing. And then 3 years later, I just decided to hit publish on Amazon. And so here we are.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Ray, so during the interview, I'm going to explore a little bit more about your life and also about your
Mhm.
journey so far, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point of view?
Oh, that should be fun. That should be. I don't know
I'm very
how, fun how interesting my life is going to be, but let's go for it.
for sure it is. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. So I
Oh,
have here
wow.
random fun questions. So what I'm going
Okay.
to do, I'm just going to play a song just for us to relax before the first question, okay?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, wow. You got some
Yeah,
moves.
you always can dance with me. So before we start the game, during the journey, if it comes up a question that you don't want to answer, you don't want to talk about, always can chat, okay?
All right.
Amazing. First question is, what do you think people need to know about each other before they start a relationship?
Hmm. I would say their honesty, anything that they don't necessarily want to talk about in their past. I mean, I think that they should definitely confront those issues, confront those demons before they try to get into a relationship with someone else. Um, and just being open and honest about the direction that they want to go in their lives, and what what might be holding them back from being with someone else.
Saying that, what do you think is the biggest relationship deal breakers in your opinion?
Um, Relationship deal breakers. Finances, for one. Um,
Tell me why.
well, money is such an important factor, I think, especially when you are entertaining at least definitely a committed relationship with someone. So if you start the relationship by saying that you're, I don't know, a millionaire, you have your own business, you have your own company, and that person says, "Well, that's great." And then one day they check the bank account and
Oops.
oops, that money's not there. You're like, "What happened?" And then that person reveals, "Well, I kind of lied about how much money I had, or who I was." So, honesty, I think honesty and finances are sometimes deal breakers, because I think sometimes people get caught up in wanting to be wanted. So they will create facades and realities in their head to make the other person, to make themselves appear something that they're not. And not in my experience, but in people that I know, that never works out well.
Totally. I think that the main thing about is communication and be honest, as you said, talk about it. If you see something that is not right or you're not, sometimes you can feel the person vibe. Sometimes maybe you
Yeah,
don't want to know, you don't want to go there, but that's a mistake because if you don't go there, one point is going to come out
it's
somehow.
gonna come back to bite you.
Totally. Absolutely. Next question. Let's do it.
Okay. Is this a
Oh,
magic box?
yeah, that's the magic box. Next question is, what's the best advice have you ever given?
Repeat that one more time.
What's
That
the
I've ever
best you give to someone, the best advice that you give someone?
Don't be afraid to take risks to get to where
Mhm.
you want to go.
Yes.
I know that for years I was the type of person that would overthink a lot of things, and if given the chance, I would definitely talk myself out of potentially good things because I was afraid of not really knowing what the outcome would be before, like I was one of those persons that thought that you had to have everything lined up before you took the first step. And producing a series pretty much taught me that nope, that's not how life that's not how, life goes. Sometimes you have to start with the things that you have, start with the resources you have, start with the people you have. And it can be ugly at times. It can make you pull your hair out of your head. It can make you, it can give you anxiety. But the more that you do the thing that you're scared of, the better the outcome is at times. I mean, the first season taught me that in spades. And so now I kind of use that in my personal life as well to be like, you know what? I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to go for it. And sometimes I enjoy it. And sometimes I'm like, okay, never again. But you don't know unless you take that first step.
Totally. Out of our comfort zone can be scary, but it can be a beautiful place to be for sure.
Mhm.
Saying that, what's the biggest joy of being Ray? What do you like the most about being yourself?
Well, I like that I like that I'm a happy person. Um, I think the biggest thing is just that I inspire people. Um, that I'm always the voice of reason. Sometimes that is exhausting. Because everyone's calling you for advice or everyone's calling you for just and it's a frustrating blessing and a curse sometimes when you have to be this happy-go-lucky person. But I know that because of the things that I've gone through, that I had a best friend of mine tell me that because of what you went through, you have this understanding about yourself and about other people. You have this awareness that if you didn't go through what you went through, you probably wouldn't. And I think that's the best part of being me. And
Wow.
that I'm also creative.
What's your star sign astrology?
Say it again.
What's your star sign astrology?
Uh, Scorpio.
I'm
Scorpio.
Scorpio as well.
Wow. What
Which
month?
day?
I'm October. The
Oh,
20th.
okay.
I'm
Okay, I'm
October.
November.
So my great grandmother, God rest her soul, is November the 8th, and my uncle is November the 9th.
Wow.
So my dad's mother, my grandmother, my dad's mom, she is October 26th. I'm October 27th. Her mother is November the 8th, and her son is November the 9th. So those back-to-back birthdays are just like, was this
Amazing.
planned? Was this, But Scorpio in October, I don't know if that translated to God giving me, if that had anything to do with God giving me this creative skill. Um, but there are some people that are great in certain things and some people that
Yeah.
are like
So,
not so great in certain things, and
yeah.
and you wonder why that happened, because on a lot of interviews people are like, well, what's your zodiac sign? And you know when you say Scorpio, they go, oh my
I
God.
know. I know.
As if
You
like it's like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy?
once I've been a lovely lady told me once, she was an expert in astrology, she told me once that they did like a research in history, that's a
Mhm,
fact, and they
mhm.
find out that the most like danger people in the world, like murders, people who did bad things in the world in history, most of them they're Scorpio. On the other side, the most wisdom people, the people who left their marks in the world for some reason, people who Pablo Picasso is Scorpio. Pablo Picasso, I found out the other day, He's a Scorpio
That's
as
it.
well. So she explained to me. So Scorpio, there are two ways. Like they can be, as you know, Scorpio. We like to go to the prohibited. We have this tendency of to see what's going on there. At the same time as well, we have this way of try to understand life
And
in a bit of.
charming too, I think. And I
So
think, yeah, there's a charming aspect to us. There's
yeah,
a friendly aspect to us,
totally,
and
yeah.
there's no nonsense aspect to us. We're just like, uh-uh, uh-uh.
Amazing. Yeah, so when she told me that, I was like, oh, now it makes sense a few things. I understand more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Next question. Let's do it. Before the next question, tell me what's the biggest joy of, working as a producer, as a writer, in this overall business? What's the biggest joy of it? And the flip side, what do you find most challenging?
I think for me, most challenging is scheduling and bringing people together and budgeting. It's not exactly the easiest task. And also when you suffer from writer's block, because when you can't figure out a scenario or how a storyline is supposed to come together, it's nerve wracking. Like you're just like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. And sometimes, in my experience, you have to give it time to come to you. So you have to put it down for 3 or 4 days and then come back to it. And sometimes it still doesn't come back to you until hours later. But the the most joyous part I find is the fact that you can create something on a page and you can make a fully complete thing. And then once that thing is done, you can just take it out into the marketplace and just create an opportunity for yourself and bring people together and just create a whole community around this body of work that inspires people, that makes people laugh, that puts people on the edge of their seats. And so that's the most fun part of it for me, on top of working with people that are just so creative and have so many ideas. And we have so much fun on set with the associates. It every day that, every weekend when we film and I work with them, um, it's so much fun because we're like a family, right? So we've known each other for going on now 3 or 4 years, and so whenever we show up to set, it's like, hey, what's going on? Because if we're not on set, we're talking or we're sending each other messages throughout the week, and then so when we meet up, and that the time goes by, you're like, oh, damn, I wish I could just, I wish I could just continue this because you're in that element. You have so much fun. So those are the most fun parts of it for me.
Beautiful. Next question is, how would you describe a perfect friendship?
A perfect friendship. When I think about that, I think about my friend MJ, who is open and honest. I would say is a big part of like a relationship, a friendship, open and honest communication, a lot of laughter, a lot of wisdom on both parts, um, and just being able to, I think, lay your burdens down at that person and them being able to pick you up and tell you that everything is going to be okay is like the perfect friendship. It has to be a blend, but above all else, if you can't be open and honest with your friends, then who can you be open and honest with? Because sometimes it's easier to be open and honest with your friends than other people you encounter, like like your family, for instance. And when I think about my friendship with MJ, we've been friends for almost 15 years. It is one of the and I should preface this by saying that I have several best friends that I've encountered at different areas of my life. But this relationship that I have with him for 15 years, it's been just, I'm grateful for it. Because it's just things, we can start a conversation about one thing, and then the conversation ends up being about 4 hours later, and we go from one subject to the other subject, and then I find myself saying, how did we get here from we started talking about this and now we're talking about whatever we end up talking about. So it's definitely a great relationship. So if you're out there
Okay.
watching this, MJ, love you, brother.
I was about to say, MJ is watching this interview right now and you have a moment, an opportunity to send him a message. What would you say?
Thank you for showing up every time I called your name. I remember when I first told him about the associates, and I was looking for someone to play one of the roles, and I at that time I didn't have many actor friends as I have now. And he asked me one day, he said, "Is there anything left?" And I was like, "Well, there's one role left, but I'm like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because it's a little heavy." And he agreed, and he showed up to set that day, and he blew me away with his performance. And so
Wow.
it's taken our friendship to another level, that I can throw ideas at him and he can help me work them out, and we still can talk about so much stuff, um, and we continue about our friendship in the normal way that we would. But now it's definitely, now he's my writing partner, so it's interesting now. But thank you so much for showing up every time I called your name. I appreciate that.
Beautiful. MJ, hello from William, okay, as well from me, okay, from London. 3 questions left. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, have your coffee, your sip. The last question, I could see you going to your cup and you put it back again. I was like, damn it. Okay, next question is, do you know anyone who is living their life to the fullest?
Yes. Yes. I would say my grandfather, 92 years old, and has health issues. I mean, if surgeries and doctor's appointments were a resume, it would be extensive. But you would never know because he has this strong will to survive.
Oh,
He's worked his entire life to provide for his family, and even though now um, he has these issues with his health, when he's feeling good, he will still get up and move about the yard and try to do what he can when he can. So that's a strong will, that's a strong spirit. And I think that that is something that a lot of people should aspire to be. Um, Never let your situations or your experiences dictate, your reality. Um,
wow.
try to just be getting a little emotional, but
Oh,
try to be, just try to be a good person, and just have that strong will to survive and beat the odds. And I think, if I'm being honest, where I got that from, where I got that strong spirit from, was definitely in due to him. Excuse me. Yeah. So he's an example of someone who's living their life to the fullest.
wow.
In spite of the adversity that he's experiencing now, he's strong-willed to survive.
Beautiful, Ray. I'm so glad you shared that because, having those people around us is a big
Mhm.
inspiration for us to understand that life, it's about living, it's about going, every day. It ends with up and downs that's gonna come all the way. And sometimes you just need to be strong. The only choice you have is to be strong. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
I find that either you face the challenge or it challenges you. And
Totally.
that's something that I try my best to not let things, you know, get to me or beat me down. I mean, unless it's calculus or algebra or some,
Of
I have a
course.
cousin who is a computer software engineer right now, and he's working on his master's. And the math that he showed me the other day, I'm like, well, there's a running joke between the two of us that he got the technical side, the math and, that stuff. And then I got the writing side because we always say he doesn't want to do what I do because it's too much writing and too much,
Yeah,
that creative part of his brain is not there. And I'm like, well, what you do, I could never. Uh-uh. I don't want any part of that. I said, especially when it looks like letters and numbers and figures and symbols. And
I
mm-mm.
know. It's like,
It's daunting. I mean, and that's another thing is that talking about operating in your gifting, when I was in school, math was not my greatest subject. Like, I just English and writing, I would excel. You put math problems in front of me, other than 2 plus 2 and 6 plus 4, wasn't happening. And the fact that we had to do repetitive, like so many years of algebra and geometry, and I'm just like, this is, I would do what I had to do to pass the class, but math was not my strongest subject. So I wonder, is that a Scorpio thing? Or I don't know.
I think that's I think that, I think all of us people, they have a tendency to be, better in some, some topics, and other topics is a bit. So it's all about not. I think that's the beauty of us, to be able to be more um, understanding about different topics than some of the others. It's just like, as you said, letters, numbers all together. It's a mix of
Yeah,
too much information.
right. A bit too much.
2 questions left. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
You're really getting into this.
Oh, okay, next question is that a dream you always had?
A dream I've always had. You know, I think I don't dream as much, or I wasn't one of those people who said, I dream of being a this or that. I was just one of those who knew that I wanted a good career. I wanted something that I could be proud of, but I never knew what that was until later on in my life. Um, there was a period in time where my grandmother thought that I would be a teacher because when I was growing up, I didn't I didn't have many friends as I have now. Um, and because of my disability, I kind of stayed away from people. So my head was either always in a book reading, or I would get like the stuff, the figurines, and I would stick them in the drawer handles of my grandmother's dresser drawer. And I would stand in front of like a whiteboard and I would teach English. And so she thought that a period in time, she's like, you're going to go be a teacher. And my grandmother did that for 40 years as a career. And by the time I was growing up and got through school, she was like, sweetheart, no, no, I did it for
Not for
the
you.
no, don't do it. Don't do it. And so my gift giving was really in speaking and inspiring people. And so she thought, again, because mothers know best, right? She thought, well, you would make a great, broadcaster. Although broadcasting here in the States and here in Miami is, you have, especially when you're first starting out, you have those 2 a.m., wake up calls where you have to be at the studio at 4 a.m. because, the morning news. And I'm like, yeah, I love my sleep too much. That's not going to happen. I got to find something else. And so that was part of in addition with the burnout, that was part of the reason that I was like, no, this won't work. But to answer that question, I don't know that I ever said that that was my dream until years later. Because now, if
Uh-huh.
you were to ask me that same question, if I could go back 15, 20 years, I would say that this is my dream. And I would
Wow.
say, I'm living it. But, I think sometimes we don't connect with that dream until years later. Um, because we go through these different phases where we want this, we want this, we want this. And
Mm-hmm.
then that growth, that period of growth happens where you say, the things I wanted 5 years ago, not necessarily anymore. Um, so that's where we are.
And in the entertainment business, like acting, producing, writing, do you have like idols, people that you always be inspired by? Tell me three names.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because I grew up watching soap operas with my grandmother on my mom's side, and she still watches them to this day. I
Me
mean,
too.
Young and the Restless, General Hospital, Bold and the Beautiful, like from 12 to 3 o'clock, do not, unless I call her for an emergency, do not call her and interrupt that time. It's just not happening. So I grew up watching those with her, and I never knew that people did that for a living. I thought that that was like their lives. I thought that
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was scripted. I didn't know that it was like, I thought that these were real people doing this. And then as I grew up, people, I realized that, oh, people like they're they're actually
People.
actually they're actually people, and people actually do this for a living. So during that period where I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? And trying to find that passion, there was an actress on As the World Turns, Terry Khan, that she played Katie, and I I loved watching her because her personality on screen very like in the male form, just like bubbly, voice of reason, kind of that like a lot of the characteristics that I share as a person. And so I was like, well, I watching her, I'm like, oh shoot, I'd like to do this. I'd like to, kind of model my experience after her. And I started studying her scenes and different things like that. And I think watching that was like a master class in acting, which is like how I got, into it. And now, as far as idols go, I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily, I would call them idols, but just people that I enjoy watching on screen. Um, Even idols that are, like who I aspire to, who I get my creative juices from. I think I read a lot of James Patterson. I mean, if you look at my bookshelf, James Patterson's books are like from the top shelf to the bottom. Um,
Wow.
Acting, there are just so many people. I can't even. I have a list. I can't even, but in different genres. I mean, for daytime, there's Terry Khan, there's John Lindstrom, who, if you have not started watching Beyond the Gates, it's a new soap that just aired a couple weeks ago. You have to check it out. I mean, it is brilliant storytelling, just everything. So, um, but definitely those are some of my idols. I mean, John Lindstrom, Terry Khan. There's, for writing, there's James Patterson. Um, these are people that I just get inspiration from, and every time I see them on screen, I'm like, if I ever met them one day, I would tell them like how much they attributed to my success.
And if one day you wake up with three missed calls on your phone, three of from these three people just mentioned now, which one you
Mm-hmm.
call back straight away? Which one you send a message,
Oh,
call you back later, and the third
oh
one,
wow,
the third
damn,
one you don't call, you don't do anything, you just go like, okay, I can talk to them another time.
wow. So probably if I had to say, if I got three missed calls from them, the one that I would probably call back first would be James Patterson, probably just to pick his brain, just to see like how, just to ask him, how did you like, where in your brain did you develop these characters and these scenarios, and how did you withstand and maintain this career as this outstanding, novelist for thrillers and things like that? Because I read a lot of his books and automatically I'm like, I will jot down ideas. Like I will read his books. Sometimes I've read one particular book of his like 3 or 4 times, and I will say, all right, I will break it down and I will go, okay, well, this didn't really work. If I were doing this differently, I would do this differently. So he would be that first person that I would call back and be like, no, I got to call him right back. I got to call him right back. John Lindstrom would probably be second on that list because I would have the same question for him. You've wrote this awesome book. You've had this awesome career as in TV and movies. Give me some pointers. And then Terry, of course, because she's, I think, as a person, as this artist, as this, just has she, like, you look at people like that always have a smile on their face, and you wonder, did they ever encounter, did they ever have a bad day? Because she looks like she's never had a bad day, or just she's so bubbly, right? So people like that, you want to pick their brain and be like, just how do you do it day in and day out? Like these are the questions that are on my mind.
Amazing. Last question, ready?
Sure.
Let's do it. Last one.
It's hard to say that 30 to 45 minutes went by when you're having so much fun in the movie.
Before the last question, people who read your book, based on your life, what's something that would you like people to take with them?
If you read my book, and I've had a couple people come back to me and say that the biggest takeaway that they got is, and I think I mentioned this earlier, just go for it. Never allow your situation and the adversity that you're experiencing, don't let that dictate the direction that you're trying to go. Figure out where you're trying to go, one, and get around like-minded people who are doing the same, who are doing the things that you want to do. Because as I've been told recently, a mentor is like a cheat code, and you don't necessarily have to go through life by yourself. So just embrace those changes, embrace the adversity, and just go along with it and enjoy the ride.
Amazing. Hey, last question is, what's the best gift you ever received and why you consider that?
The best gift I've ever received. Ooh, this is a tough one. I think the first car that I got from my great-grandmother was,
Wow.
it was significant because even though driving in South Florida takes a lot of patience, and it is sometimes not the greatest thing, for me, receiving that from her was significant, and it was a great gift because I graduated on May 13th of 2017, and she died 5 days later. And in that time, I think she hung on long enough just to see two things. She wanted to see me walk across the stage at graduation, and she wanted me to get that car. Like, those were her two things that she wanted to do before she passed away, and God allowed her to stay on this earth to see that. So that was the best gift that in recent memory that I've received. And I would think if she were alive today, because sometimes I still feel her. And I said this in the book when I was writing, that every time I sit down and write, I feel her presence. And if she were alive today and if she could see the things that I'm doing, I think she'd be very proud.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure whatever she is right now, she's, cheering up for you more than anybody
Yeah.
else, for sure. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game, okay? I'm going to give away some words, just one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking, okay?
All right.
Let's start with money.
Ooh. So what do I think when it comes to money? Success.
Fear.
Career.
Family.
Closeness.
Love.
Passion.
Life.
Challenges.
Religion.
Faith.
Sex.
Complicated.
I love when I said sex, straight away your phone rang. Friendship.
Honesty.
Politics.
Pass.
I love your face. You're like, pass. And so, one word for desire.
Desire. Ooh. Opportunity.
Regret.
Failure.
Success.
Empowerment.
Happiness.
Love.
Wish.
Happiness.
One word for the associates, your play that you wrote.
Wow. One word to describe the associates. This might be a two-part word, but roller coaster.
Okay. One word for Miami.
Sunny.
USA.
Beautiful.
And if you could define in one word your book based on your life, what that would be?
Empowering.
Amazing. Let's pretend now I'm going to meet your best friend for a coffee, the one that you mentioned during the interview, and I'm going to ask him, define Ray in one positive and one negative word only, what he would say.
Happy for a positive word. Negative. I would say thinking about him and knowing him as well as I know. Overthinker.
Interesting. Okay. Let's play now, Ray, in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. Okay, Ray, you can ask me a question now.
Okay. So, if you weren't doing this, the magic box, what would you be doing?
Great question. Great question. Before I answer my question, your question, I strongly believe that all of us, we can do a lot of things in life and still be happy. I think all of us, we have capacities to do different things. And I'll be, being in love doing different professions, and I think I'll be very happy doing those. But the first thing that came to my mind, actually, when you said, was as a therapist. Yeah, I think I'd love to be a therapist. I think it would be amazing. I think actually, doing the show here, I feel like there's a little bit of it as well because there's learning, I'm sharing, we are, having a moment here. But I think
Right.
for you to be able to sit down with someone, and to go through their weakness or their challenges, their happiness, their beautiful moments, everything in their lives. I think it's a trust process, and I think it's amazing for you to navigate with them somehow. So I think, yes, I could picture myself like in a room, like in a very cozy room, having someone, around and, learn something, teaching something. And I think it would be amazing to navigate through their lives together. I think it would be amazing somehow. Yeah, I would love that.
That would be that's interesting. Um, because I don't know why, but I can picture you as like this counselor-ish or this like similar to me in the voice of reason. Like you seem to have that personality when if you sit down with someone, you can look at them and be like, well, you can talk to me about anything, if you want to talk about it, let's talk about
Yeah,
it. And
absolutely.
you just have that energy and that look, right? Where people are just like, and maybe it's happened to you where people come to you for a lot of things. They want to talk to you because you probably you seem to have this personality where you can kind of like calm everybody down and be like, that's not that, like, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. Um, and I think that's the Scorpio in us that
Totally. It's so connected with our personality and understand what you mean. I think when you are yourself or try to be yourself the most you can, I think people, they resonate with you because they feel safe. They feel like they can share things. They can trust. I think that something about people when they, try or be themselves, the true selves. Ray, did you enjoy the interview?
oh, I had so much fun today, and I should say that you interviewed one of my new friends who will be on the Associates in the second season, Sean Brabe. Um, I actually I
Absolutely.
told him I was because we have a read through next week, and I told him I said the interview you did with Will. I said, guess who's in the hot seat tomorrow morning? He's like, oh man.
That's amazing.
When you messaged me, it went straight to the requests folder. And so normally sometimes you get weird messages
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
folder, and you're like, do I hit the accept button or do I hit the block button? And I saw the first thing you were like, hey, I have an interesting YouTube channel. I want to interview you. And the first thing I thought was, how did he get my information? Like, how is this going around? But then I saw Sean do it and I saw a couple of other clips and I'm like, okay, this is a real thing because there are
Yeah.
people on there I know. And so I had so much fun with the interview today.
Thanks.
What you're doing is great
Thank
because
you.
I like that it's relaxed. I like that you have that personality where you make it fun. So
Thank you.
you really get into some great it's great conversation. It's like now you're
Yeah,
talking to a friend about, whatever the case is.
yeah.
And I just really love that and enjoyed it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ray. The pleasure's all mine. I think it's amazing to be able to connect with so many people around the world, great people, people sharing their stories. And thanks again for sharing yours as well. Thanks for being so open and very inspired as well. I love you talk about your granddad. I think such a beautiful, take away from the interview. When you're describing, I was just like my arm warm, like was warm my heart more and more. So thanks again for taking the time. And
Thank
before you
you.
go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
You know, something that my grandmother often says to people when she's in the checkout line at the grocery store. If you're if you see someone having a bad day, lend them a smile and let them borrow yours.
Wow, that's amazing.
I don't think anyone should go through life, even if you're having a bad day, because there will be days where where things just don't go the way you want them to go. Um, Take a moment, feel what you're feeling,
Mhm.
and if you can, put it in a magic box and set it aside. Because you shouldn't go to bed angry. You shouldn't go to bed. You should wake up and just embrace the next day. Learn from whatever that experience was the previous day, and wake up with a smile and thank God that you made it through another day, and
Totally.
try to have, try to have more good days than bad days. But
Beautiful.
always, if you encounter someone and they're not having a bad day, if they look like they're having a bad day, lend a smile and let them borrow yours.
Amazing. Thanks again. Regards to your family, your granddads, and everyone around you. And you keep in touch, okay? It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Okay?
You too.
Take
Thank
care.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, to share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye, see you next time.